My friends, this is a very critical time for us to discuss something which we've meant to do with my delicious co-host and guest, my wife, regarding the two cases that occurred, last week or the week before?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, regarding Meta in New Mexico and in California. So you wanted to tell our dear friends about that.
Well, I wanted to review the two cases with you as a lawyer because I have a big question I don't hear a lot of people asking, and that is, what's next? So a little less than 2 weeks ago, we had a case in New Mexico, which was about consumer protection laws. Basically, Meta was responsible for allowing predators and children all on the platforms at the same time, okay? The next day, we had Meta being held responsible in LA Superior Court for a product liabilities case. They knowingly had a product that harmed children. So 2 back-to-back verdicts of guilty with monetary compensation. $6 million for New Mexico, and then $375 million for New Mexico and $6 million in California. But the point I want to get to is, and I'm not hearing, is we have this. Everybody's, hitting each other on the back and clapping, and it is terrific news. It's moving in the right direction, holding big tech accountable, something at the Warriors we always talk about. And we do know there are over 1,600 other cases pending in all 50 states across the United States. But I want to ask you, what do you see this, happening now? What do you think the strategy of big tech is?
Okay.
Because we have to keep on this every single day to hold them accountable.
First, let me tell you what happened. This was in essence, a civil case. Both of them civil versus criminal. So people were found liable. They were found guilty is normally in the context of a criminal. This is civil. So nobody's going to be going to jail. What's critical about this is the New Mexico case said this. It was not about the content of Meta or YouTube or anything for that matter. It wasn't about what they put out. It was in the design, specifically regarding Meta. In the New Mexico case, they said that Meta not only didn't protect children against predators by leaving the door open, so to speak, but what they did also was it almost invited them or made their connection even more possible. Now, as you know, you've talked about Section 230 for the longest time, where these tech companies are not considered to be publishers. That protects them from libel, from defamation cases. This is different. They said, we don't care about what you put out. It's the design. The design. You allowed this to go out knowing, based upon whistleblower testimony and others.
Internal memos, right.
Exactly. That kids were not only susceptible to being met and preyed upon by predators, but you almost facilitated it. So you're found liable because of that. The other one in LA was a little bit different. They said the design again. You did this deliberately taking into account the, dare I say, the addiction modalities and the addiction propensities and the addiction mechanisms that kids have toward your product. So you did it deliberately trying to hook them, knowing that you would be addicting them based upon this, internal memos and that sort of thing. Again, not your content, but your design, which would freak them out because Section 230, their big protection, their big Kevlar, their big bulletproof shield, so to speak, has nothing to do with the design of something. It would be like if somebody said, I put out a gun, and the gun, you have a Second Amendment right to possess a gun, and you might be able to use a gun in the protection of yourself. But if my gun blows up when you fire it, or the bullets don't work or something, it's the design, not the function, not what it's meant to be, they didn't see this coming. So they're saying holy blank is what they're saying. This was huge. Let's see what happens next. More lawsuits. Wait till you see them coming. They're going to be lining up. And like you said one time, you're going to be seeing on TV, have you been injured? Have you been urged?
I saw one today online. I saw one, and it was listing all the different social media things. It was a list of about 12 things. Directly, I think, coming out of these two court cases, I think this will be. But again, and we should point out that Snap and TikTok settled about 48 hours in advance in LA of this trial. So we don't even know anything about that. They just settled. But I'm very curious, do you think, the history of any of these platforms, especially Meta, they promise child safety. They say they have, safety councils. They say that, they put out very glossy PR statements. They always seem to say something when they're going to be brought to court or there's a public outcry. Do you think they will change the design of their products, which are Instagram, WhatsApp, and also Facebook? And also WhatsApp, they also introduced during all of this, it was an almost 8-week trial in LA, WhatsApp for kids. And so in the midst of all this, they unfurled that, and they want basically 13-year-olds. They want that to be a digital adult, So they have no shame, these people. Right. But I'm very curious if, and I know I ask you this a lot, they will actually try, or they'll just pay out billions because that's a drop in the bucket, and they're all invested in AI.
Pay out
now.
billions. They've already. Their insurance companies or carriers have already allocated X amount of money to be paid for this. The same thing happens with, I hate to say it, during the old days when airlines would figure that there's going to be an accident. If there was a design, sometimes, a major, like I'm not mentioning Boeing, but something like that would say, well, you know what, it's cheaper for us to pay out the lawsuits than to go back and retrofit it. How can big tech take out the very thing that makes big tech what it is? The ability to addict kids and to open up the gates to predators. That's what they do.
But isn't it a shame when we know from, again, I want to point out, we are pro-tech, pro-innovation, pro-technology. Mm-hmm. We want it to be safe. We want tech to work for people and kids.
But what do you mean safe?
We work reasonably safe. For instance, can we make all of this safe? No, we can't. Let's be realistic here. Well, but they have a duty of care to not allow, we always talk about certain content gets censored online. Why doesn't a lot of this child exploitation, this CSAM, child sexual abuse material, why doesn't more of that get censored when we know political talk, vaccine talk, other talk can get censored? So they do have the ability to do that. So what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be easier for them with all of this and the public more awake than ever, educators, doctors, government legislation coming down the pike, why wouldn't they just adapt? I know it's profit over people. I get it. But why wouldn't they just make some amends, step up to the plate? Because, again, their eye is on AI, which is the real terror coming down the road.
But because if they were to do this, you've just eliminated their whole reason for being. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to go in there to have some kind of communications platform that allows grandmas and kids to show pictures of pets. No. That's not what they want. That wasn't what they wanted in the first place. You just took away what they did. It's like if you were to go out and say, can't you food people lay off the salty and the sweet and the fat? Can't you make healthy foods? You go, but nobody's going to buy it. That's not what we're here to do. We're not here to make people healthy. We're here to sell this stuff. You're getting to the core of what these people are all about. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to appeal the heck out of this. Remember, you can't appeal a settlement. So because you're pretty much throwing up your hands and saying, all right,
what happens now? So what would be the next steps?
They're gonna stay the execution, with the actual payout. They're gonna be issuing this. Their lawyers, they put it this way, they have been waiting for this. They have all the contingencies figured out. They know exactly what they're going to try to do. And this is war, because the reason for this is they want to be able to hook and to addict and to cajole.
And sell advertising.
And sell advertising. But also, what's really sad is, why do they want so much to involve children?
Well, see, that's the whole thing. That's like another program
about
morality and how can they do this. Many of them parents themselves. It's really basically a handful of people running.
But what they're going to be doing is they're going to go and Zuckerberg's going to be dealing with Mike Johnson and others, and they're going to say, we're going to put on the best. We're going to get the first lady, the president, and we're going to talk about big tech safety. They're not going to change anything,
Yes.
but the public is going to say, wow, look at that. They're not going to change anything. If you put it this way, if you made Meta what it should be, they'd be out of business because that's not what they want to do.
Well, it did start. Do you remember it started in universities,
It
Facebook, exchanging students,
always
can make
starts off like that.
friends,
Yes.
then it was families. It opened up to the public, and
It
and,
always
and
starts
puppies, and now
Remember, the old expression is when something is free, you're the product. It's not. It's you. It was a lure to get people in. It had nothing to do with Facebook. It wasn't about Facebook. It was about how do we get people in. Remember, at first it was Mafia Wars, and then Candy Crush, or whatever these
games, right.
Farmville, or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything, just like Angry Birds.
Angry Birds was the first one I ever saw years and years ago.
By the way, believe it or not, Angry Birds, it was believed, was a way for you to download a program that would open up your phones to all kinds of intrusion. The same way, remember flashlights? They used to have, now it's on your phone, but a flashlight was a program that people downloaded, which opened it up. So anyway, these people, Mark Zuckerberg and others, it's not just him, are not here to make our lives better, to connect the world. It's to sell things. And this just went after, the plaintiffs were brilliant because they went after the design of the platform and not the content. See, they're saying, we don't care what it's.
Well, that's why they did it. The lawyers told me that's why they went in California, where there are strong product liability laws, and that they would win this thing, and that was months ago. Based on that, they were going to shock everybody, and also in New Mexico. Well, that's why we at the Warriors want to sound the alarm, because the public is going to hear, we are taking care of things, we put all the safety in, and we sit here and tell you safety features, 75% about them do not work on these platforms. They put out, again, these glossy PR releases about things that are just that, propaganda. And we have to warn everybody that you need to know what's going on, especially with your kids and your grandkids, what's happening. And AI is the next thing. And it is very disappointing to see the same week, less than 2 weeks ago, these two verdicts back to back, that the White House announces a tech council. And Mark Zuckerberg's on it with Sam Altman.
Oh!
So OpenAI and all that. And now we have to really talk about that. And we do know AI will replace teachers in the classroom. That's a given. As opposed to AI we work with a lot of ethical tech people. AI could empower, could help, but they're coming from the other direction of replace.
Right.
So we need AI to be built with children in mind and families in mind, and not the other way around. And that's my greatest fear. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
And by the way, you should see the documentary, the AI doc, how I became a...
You should see it, but I've been thinking a lot about it. It's really...
But you know what?
I didn't really get any answers out of it, but it's a good introductory
Exactly.
to just the subject matter. Because
People do not understand what it means.
But we also don't have... Think about it. Do we have AI programs streaming? No, I can't think of any. Do we have any other documentaries and movies?
No, that's the only one.
So at least this will open
And the
up.
fact that it went out, by the way, was at least... Well, but listen, it's something... The best news is, I think sometimes, I hate to say it, I think it is intuitively impossible for people to really understand it. In any event, young lady, I think that was a pretty good adumbration of what's going on, don't you?
Well, I want all of our warriors out there to understand, we as the community create change. Please follow us, always lynswarriors.org. But I also want to add something else I've been reading a lot about and focusing on is this Dr. Horvath, who came forward about Gen Z, being, for lack of a better word, dumber than the millennials, the generation before them. This is the first time in history this has ever occurred. And really, this is proof it's because of screens. This is the way I look at it, that they were dealt a hand of growing up in this digital bubble and not using critical thinking and analysis and research and isolating and not talking to others. So we've seen this. So what I want to finish up with is, have we not learned anything from history?
No.
About big tech, basically started in about 1996. Going forward, we're in 2026, and now we have AI. It is a very dangerous, but could be good. So we want everybody to go into their schools to, ask, what are you doing about tech and AI? You have a right to find out what the curriculum is. You talk to your kids. Obviously, they know so much. They're savvy about all these subjects, what they're doing in their schools, AI, online. And also, we always recommend, we live in a digital environment world. We're not going to get rid of anything we're talking to you right now, but put the devices down with kids. You decide you start with 15 minutes a day, work up to an hour, just a little bit, and get into some art and some music, some other activities, especially nature, now that spring is coming. And really, we have to take this very seriously, the subject matter, and keep talking about it. So thank you for agreeing to,
Indeed.
to talk about this, because it is something I think we have to talk about each and every day.
And by the way, you still remain, and I'm not saying this just because of your husband, but you are an absolutely unmovable. You were the most determined force to protect kids, bar none, and you're one of the few people who can understand it. In any event, I thank you, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Give me a kiss.
And by the way, we're going to be collaborating with this. Make sure you follow Lynn's Warriors.
And subscribe to our...
Make sure you subscribe to Lynn's Warriors. Make sure you like this video. Liking this video is critical. It puts her in the HOV lane. She needs this. She is under, not attack, but by virtue of the subject matter, she is held to a higher scrutiny than a lot of other people do who talk about identical things, which is another story in and of itself. Make sure you also hit the little bell for her to be notified of live streams and new videos. And subscribe to Lynn's Warriors. All right?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.